Welcome to mini lesson number 1, or step 1, the value of your expertise. Hopefully at this point you have already completed your post-it party and analyzed the information that you learned from that, because we're going to talk about the fact that no one really knows what a teacher's worth. Sad reality. And a lot of times teachers themselves are not great at knowing what they're worth. Because teachers are much more than content delivery specialists. As much as there might be a push to reduce our profession to being just content delivery specialists, we really are much more than that. And we know that, and oftentimes parents know that as well. And it's for that reason that they're seeing this change in education, and the struggles that kids are having. We know that kids, and when I say kids, I'm talking all the way up to 12 and even university level students, with regulating themselves and the mental health issues and whatnot. Parents are aware of that too. And so teachers are not the only ones leaving the classroom. Parents are also taking their kids out of the classroom because they want them to be able to have a healthier experience. And a lot of times it's with a teacher that is going to have the time and energy to invest in the learning of that child. So when you go back and you think about all of the things that make you an amazing educator, a lot of times they're the soft skills. It's the practice part of a teaching practice. It's the pedagogy and the talent and the skills that you have acquired over your lifetime of teaching or the years of teaching. And a lot of us were teachers before we ever got our degree. So don't discount that experience as well. So when nobody or very few people really know the value of an educator, how are we going to figure that out? How are we going to figure out like where to start with coming up with a number for that? And we're going to start out by looking at some hard numbers, actually. So I want you to look at what is the yearly salary, the average yearly salary, either in your particular area where you are, geographical area, or nationally. So if your business is going to be online, you can go nationally. If you're primarily focused on face-to-face, then I would encourage you to look just in your geographical area. But what is the average yearly salary of someone with your education level? So if you have a bachelor's, what's the average salary of someone with a bachelor's? If you have a master's degree, what's that? A master's plus 24, or two masters, or a PhD. What's the average yearly salary of someone with that education level? So there's your first hard data point. Then I also want you to look at what's the average cost of private music lessons or private athletic coaching. And again, if you are looking to do this online, you can look at national averages. If you are looking to stay in just your geographical area, I would encourage you to look at those prices in geographical areas. And not everybody's really forthcoming with their pricing, so you may have to send some inquiries if there is a private music instructor. And this could be voice, this could be instrumental. You could even look at private dance lessons. But look at those sorts of things that the parents are willing to invest in. A lot of times these are considered enrichment activities, but is what you have to offer any less valuable? Because a lot of times we're doing more than just helping them master content. We're teaching them how their brains work. We're teaching them how to learn, which is invaluable, because once you know how your brain learns, you can learn anything. Here are some of the numbers that I found when I was doing my research. Now, my business is online and in person, so I went with those national averages because I can see students in other states. I'm in Pennsylvania, but I've had students in Texas. I've had students in South Carolina. I've had students in California and Vermont. So I went with those national averages. And what I found at the time of this recording was that a master's degree was around $80,000 a year. That's just for the average with a master's degree. And the average cost of private music lessons was anywhere between $50 to $150 an hour. And private athletic coaching, I specifically looked at soccer and swimming because I have a soccer player, and I know somebody else who does swimming, so those were the two that I looked up. But it was between $50 and $90 an hour. So for me, I made it my base rate $75 an hour. is where I set my base rate. Now, when I originally started my business, that is not where I set it. It took me some time to get comfortable with that. I set it much too low. Some of you may be watching this and thinking, oh, well, I was charging that back in, the 1980s. But that tells me that your area could probably support more. That 75 for me when I first got there, that was a huge stretch for me, because when I had been only doing tutoring, I was only charging $40 an hour for tutoring in my small town Pennsylvania for in-person tutoring. So it was hard for me to even go up to $50 an hour, and then 75 is huge. And now I charge even more than that. Now I charge either per course, where I have $2,000 for a course, but we'll talk about some of those other pricing packages as well. But the first thing you really need to do is to establish what your base rate is, and then all of your other calculations are going to be done from there. The other thing I wanted to say about why I chose those particular examples is because this is what people outside of education are going to be comparing you to. That's what they are going to be comparing your pricing to, because they don't really know how else to do it. And if you think about it, I mean, I'm sure many of us have seen the online meme of the teacher saying, yeah, I'll take the babysitting rate, right, of $10 or $20 an hour per kid for how many, and we'd be making six figures a year at least. But that is what other people are going to be comparing you to, parents, for example, and caregivers. The other reason I chose these is because there's something interesting about the way that they charge. They charge monthly for that time slot. So it's $300 a month, whether your kiddo shows up to that lesson or not. If you've ever had a child in dance or in private athletic training or doing anything like horseback riding or any of those extracurriculars, you know that you pay for that time slot and you're charged whether your kid shows up or not. And I want you to adopt a similar way of thinking to your business, because you do need to be earning a consistent income. And there's a precedent for it. Many of your clientele are already used to that. So I want you to think about adopting in some of those policies that other extracurricular providers, other education type providers have in their businesses. I found it to be much easier than I expected it to be. And so now go back to that posted party. What are the traits you have that make you a great teacher? And what base rate number do you think you should be able to charge? So knowing what you know now, how much do you believe your time and expertise are worth? And I want you to write that down somewhere, share that with someone. I apologize, this slide hadn't been adapted from when I did this training live. So there's not a comment section here for you to put that in, but feel free to email me. This is something else that you could email me. Take a picture of your Post-its and send it to me and tell me what you think your hourly rate should be. I will get back to you, and I will see you in the next video.